This isn't just another podcast. We're crushing the taboos and we're rewriting the rules. It's the space where we normalize women becoming wealthy. If you're done playing small and ready to become the CEO of your life and the architect of your future, then my girl, you're in the right room. Welcome to your wealthy era. Welcome to the Wealthy CEO podcast.
Let's get one thing straight. Wealth isn't just for Wall Street, and financial power, it belongs to women too. Let's be honest, when it comes to money, too many women have been left out of the conversation or made to feel like finance isn't for them. This episode is about rewriting that story. Today, I'm joined by Daniella and Sarah from DDM Group, two women on a mission to bridge the gap between everyday earners and powerful wealth strategies. If you've ever felt behind when it comes to your finances or like wealth was for someone else, this conversation is your invitation to take your seat at the table.
So I am so excited today that I get to welcome on two incredible females to talk about what my favorite topic is these days: women in wealth, finance, making money, wealth creation, wealth preservation, which we're going to dive into that with Daniela and Sarah from the DDM Group. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So I would love to, before we kind of get into it, obviously, people have heard who you guys are, but you're on the show, and who better yet to hear it from than yourself, a bit of your background, your journey, and like, where did that financial journey start from? And then we'll kind of talk about like how DDM came to be. But let's start with your origin story. And Daniela, if you want to, we'll let you go first.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me. I believe our passions and our missions are very aligned, you and I personally, and for business. So DDM Group is actually blossomed out of my own financial journey. DDM Group is actually Daniela DeGasperis Management Group, which doesn't really get said a lot because we kind of paraphrase all our companies, all being DDMs. So I went through a transition, which was divorce. And, coming out of a marriage, I was pretty astute to certain financial strategies that were out there and to what the uber wealth have been using for a very long time. And so I did have a estate that I was looking to grow because one of my goals was, how is this amount of money going to sustain me for the rest of my life? I did not know what that looked like in a grand picture, like life costs, the lifestyle decisions that I would be making from now, 5 years from now, or even 20 years from now. And would this money outlive me? So with those questions in mind, and along with the strategies that I had already had in place to grow wealth, and with the knowledge that I do know that you need to be well diversified in your portfolio to not be so concentrated in one area, not to have all your eggs in one basket. So as I went along and, started vetting a lot of leaders in a lot of these financial sectors, it took me about a year to find really great people. And it wasn't just, individuals that were really great at what they did. It was also what their service was like, how their communication was like, how their relationship to the client was like. And I did, and I was successful at that. I did find really great leaders in all industries, from accounting to insurance to tax specialists to estate planning to various lawyers, and which was great. And so once I had this entire team in place, now I felt a second part of being overwhelmed, because now I'm managing all of these experts. And it got to a point where, okay, great, I have all these amazing strategies in place that I brought forth with all these people, but now I'm like the admin team, and I'm my own COO to, making sure that, there's oversight and that there's this holistic approach, but I'm that holistic approach person, managing all this, which was, I mean, I had no business doing that because, how am I to know whether that accountant is not missing anything and, dotting all their I's, crossing all their T's, and vice versa for every other expert. So I went on a mission to find myself a team, which would, to most people, would familiarize themselves with is a family office, an asset management office. And on that path, I was noticing a few different things. One, they weren't all encompassing. And that was problem number one for me. Two, finding somebody else to do what I was doing would require the same person, a COO. Well, I was already doing that, and that wasn't enough for me. And third thing was that every place I'd spoken to wanted my portfolio with them concentrated in one major area. And for me, that was very troublesome because that wasn't an unbiased opinion. It wasn't decisions that were made for me specifically of what I wanted, who I was, what my goals were. I wasn't even asked. So that lit a fire under me. And that point was where I said, okay, I'm done. This doesn't exist. I don't want to be my own COO. That's it. So I went back to my leaders that I've been working with and I said, look, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. I need this for myself. I don't think I'm this rare person out there that I'm the only one who's going to need something like this. So let's build this. I'll invest, I'll build it, I'll structure it, I'll bring it to the forefront, but let's work together. It'll be a collaborative approach. We will offer incredible service. We will be relationship-based. And we're going to be goal-based, and everyone will work in unison. It'll be an incredible culture, a fantastic environment for a client to come through, where what I wanted was a place where I can walk into virtually or live, where I would feel embraced. I would feel safe. I would feel that people had my back. I would feel that they were coming in and, saying, what do you need? What do you want? What are your fears? What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to be 20 years from now? Let's look at that, And so I wanted a place where it was a safe haven for that, where, we're a solutions-based business where we look at problems, we look at all your risks, and we create solutions for you, from a lifestyle and financial point of view, which was important to me. So that's the basis of the why and the how.
I love it. And so also what I'm hearing is rather than become a COO, Daniela, you decided to become a
CEO.
founder and CEO.
But let's just be clear, my operations are with vetted experts, like top in their fields, leaders with an acumen and education and intelligence that is far beyond. So yes, I'm the COO, but I'm not your tax specialist. I'm not your estate planner. I'm not your insurance advisor or your financial advisor.
So, okay, before Sarah, we bring your story on, okay, I just want to take a moment. And I feel that maybe for some people right now, like if what's coming up for you is like, this is way outside of my scope. Like Daniela has just dropped all kinds of words and language that I didn't even know that I should have in my wheelhouse around tax advisors and insurance planning to, estate planning. Maybe you don't even know what estate planning is. Mm-hmm. I want to invite you to stay in the uncomfortableness of how you're feeling and let you know that you are in the right place, because DDM Group does things completely different, which is part of why I have these two beautiful women on the show today. And the best part is this is available for you. So if you didn't know that you should, it's a good thing to have these different areas of your life with planning and purpose, strategy and intention. And you just think, oh, I have some money and maybe I should get a financial advisor. It's like, that's just one area. And we're going to dive into the unique factor around DDM Group and how they are bridging the gap between the everyday person and typically the upper class that is doing all of this and building their wealth. And it's one of the gems that I love about Daniela, your vision, your heart, the core behind why DDM even exists. And so I just wanted to give that permission, because right now, if you're like, oh my God, I'm not understanding some of the words this incredible woman is saying, or like, I don't have any of this. It's okay if you don't have any of this. This is why we're having this conversation today, so that you can get educated as to why you should have it. And DDM offers the solution in bridging that gap. And so stick with us, because we're going to dive into all that goodness. And I want to turn it over to Sarah, because you also come with an incredible background, right? Like licensed lawyer. You were in life insurance as a life insurance agent. You have so many different unique areas in your background. So share with us a little bit of your origin story. And then how did you arrive to become part of DDM?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for saying all of that, Shay. I totally resonate with everything you said, and everyone. Yeah, please bear with us, because just having this conversation is how you learn these things. Like it's a lot of these discussions, just we don't have them, so that's what we're here to do. I also came to DDM Group when I was in transition. So I met Daniela back in 2020, actually at the DDM launch party.
Cool.
And this was when I was still working as a lawyer, and I had been invited by one of the partners at my firm who was actually a client of DDM already. So that was sort of our connection. And then it just worked out that when I was looking for a transition into my next thing, when I wanted to leave law, DDM was there for me. So Daniela scooped me up, and I came on board actually to really learn a whole new area for me. In law, I wasn't involved in anything finance related. I was a labor and employment lawyer, so I was dealing more with litigation, disputes, negotiating, advocating. And for me, back then, I probably feel like felt like many of your listeners may feel now. It was very like a foreign language to me, all the finance stuff, but just who I am as a person, I move toward my curiosity, and I like to fill in those areas where I feel like I don't know. I really wanted to learn how all of this worked, and so I came into the fold, and that's actually when I became insurance licensed, to learn about that whole world and learn from some really amazing mentors on Daniela's team. So that brought me in, and now I've been with the firm for many years. It feels like just yesterday that we started, but here we are. We've evolved a lot, and yeah, we're trying to bring what we do to people who sort of were like me, who want to know more, who want to know how to do these things and how to think about these things in a way that doesn't feel so scary and anxiety inducing. If you don't know what you don't know.
100%.
Often what it helps. Mm-hmm.
So I want to open up the conversation, and I appreciate you sharing just like your journey and finding your way to DDM Group. You guys have such a unique factor, and I think what I want to like start this conversation around is you could be passionate about so many different things when you're talking about money, finances, investing, estate planning, insurance, like all these different sectors. At the core of it, there's this cross parallel, there's this synergy between them all around the importance of women finding their way to understanding money, the language of money, understanding taxes, structures, strategy. Why is that so important, do you feel, for women to have this understanding and have this knowledge? Because most women either have somebody else completely outsourcing what I call their trust, right? Like outsourcing their trust, whether that's to a spouse, it could be to a wealth management person, it could be a financial advisor just at the bank level, like branch level, I should say. But for you guys, like, why is it so understanding that there's a fundamental understanding for women today around wealth?
So I'll dig into that. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for saying before about, clarifying to your listeners that, just to stick with it, because there will be things that will resonate. And I do speak a lot of those words. But it is words that everybody, this is where you just exemplified what the problem is. Those are words that everybody should be hearing on a daily basis, and they're not. And so the bigger question is why? And, and that's what I can answer. And it's also part of why I built this. We are, yes, the uber wealth have known about I'm not making up these products. I'm not making up these strategies. I'm creatively synergizing them together because of the holistic approach, but I didn't create any of these things. So then the question is, and this is where I kind of got angry, is that when we're such a divide between the low, the medium, the high net worth categories, and, you have the medium net worth, in the medium to high, let's just say, high producer, high income business owners, if they're not at a certain threshold, no one's talking to them. So how is somebody supposed to learn these things, have the financial literacy, and actually not only just have the financial literacy of knowing where to go and who to trust with that literacy? Because it's two things there. It's learning it. Anybody can read. But then it's, who do you go to? Because there's so much out there, and there's so much competition and greed out there for client retention. So it's like, and then it just becomes so much noise, and it's like, oh, forget about it, right? And so that's a big frustration. And then it's like, okay, so, you walk into an institution, they're going to tell you, it's a business, they're going to tell you, what they want from you. And as a country, globe, the goal is to keep you in the place where you make the less, the business makes the most. So, and somebody who doesn't have access to, that family office I was speaking about is not going to have that attention and is not going to have that level of communication. So where does this pocket go? Where do these business owners go? Right. Who do they trust? How does a self-employed, high-income earner, business owner, how do they survive into their future? Right? So if we even dial it back to the very basics, business owner, you make X amount. How are you protecting and preserving your wealth into your future to create a pension?
Right.
There's zero conversation of that. There's zero conversation of preservation. So we want to bridge that gap with let's put products to the side. Let's talk about you. Let's have a conversation. It's a very overwhelming industry. It's a very fearful industry. It's based on, from what we're told culturally, how we grew up, what our generational trauma is, what our relationship to money is, what we've been told to do. I know with my culture, Italian, graduate, maybe, get married, buy a house, get a mortgage, buy a house, and, work your butt off to pay off that mortgage. Okay. There is so much to unpack there, because that's not what it is, right? Like, the goal is not for you to be in a mortgage for the rest of your life, because the only person benefiting from that is the bank.
Totally.
Right? Not us. That's not the goal. The goal is to actually pay off your mortgage as quickly as you can, and there's strategies to do that in a very low tax way, risk way, because your home is nothing to you. It does nothing for you. It's your worst investment ever. So, it's talking to people that want to hear you and have an overview of your entire life, your entire you. And we listen to you, and then we help you. We create solutions for you. We build a structure for you. So before we can talk about anything of any kind of products or synergies or strategies, we need to know where you're at. Because sometimes, we get clients in and they're super successful, but we got to tear their whole structure down. The foundation is flawed, and the foundation doesn't allow for the future growth and future preservation. We're going to dial you back and start from scratch. So it's not about what do you have, and it's not even about how much you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because your level of net worth can be looked at where it's predominantly over leveraged in the wrong ways. So, it's not, we don't have bases of, you need to work with us if you have a minimum of $2 million, because it depends on what that client's makeup is.
Well, and I think you said some really interesting things in your response. And one of the things that was coming up for me is, you go into a financial institution of kind of any sort, and if you don't have just even the basic foundation down to understand what's actually being conveyed to you, as you mentioned, they're in the business of making money. Like that is their business. Sure, you're going to move your money if you're not quote unquote making money, but if you also don't understand how your money should be performing, fee structure, the hidden things, like, you can look at your portfolio at the end of the year with a financial advisor and make it look like you're up 5%, which is a horrible return, but you can make it look like you're up 5% and you could actually be completely down and
negative.
Right. Exactly. And on paper, you look at that and you're like, okay, well, that's not bad. It's not fantastic, but I'm not losing. But if you don't know what to look for and the questions to ask, and you don't know the language, there could be such a bigger cost that's happening than you realize. And so this is part of part of my heart behind even just having these conversations is that the more that we introduce women to this topic, you start to do this dance, right? You start to get more comfortable with just opening up and sharing and asking questions. And little by little, you start to acquire like that knowledge and these interactions, right? Like if you go to DDM Group and have an assessment done, and then go and interview another firm as well and compare and also see how that feels. What language do they use? How are they taking their time to go through the due care process? Never mind due diligence, but a due care process with the client to actually explain processes, explain language. All of this is like really, really important. And so we do have to remember that any place you're going into, their business is to make money. That's the bottom line, right? And so you want to find, and that's what I love about your group, is that you are in the business to make money as well. And you want to see your clients rise, excel, thrive in the most cost-effective way for both parties. And there's so much abundance and there's enough that can go around where everybody can win.
100%. And we actually will not work with you unless we can make you 3 to 5 times of what you're worth, because we want it to be a win-win-win for everybody involved. So that's why we have our preliminary assessment, and we know our value. We know what we bring to the table. We're bespoke, so all of our clients kind of come through with a tailor-made service. And we show our value up front. We do our assessment, we put together a preliminary presentation for them, well beyond them even signing on with us. And, so if we can't help the client at that point, we will know right away, and we'll tell them and we'll advise them, say, you know what, you're not ready yet, but this is what you need to do. Let's reconvene in, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years, or so on and so forth. And we do what you just said about do your due diligence and due care. It's 100% true. I mean, you go to the doctor, get a diagnosis, you'd be silly not to get a second opinion. So we say that all the time, because there are people that are with other firms or that like working with certain individuals. And we say, that's fine. Keep with them. If you like them, we'll just collaborate with them to execute this, because they're not, so we're so compatible, but we say, look at us as a second opinion, period.
And that's wise to do in any industry, right? Like I'm in real estate, and I say the same thing as well very often, is you should go and get 2 other opinions on the value of your home that I'm giving you that assessment for. And it's also to find out, who do you jive with? Who are you connecting with? Because that really matters, especially when you're talking, talked about real estate, which is one of the largest financial investments that many people will make, right, into an asset class in their lifetime. And you guys are even in some ways at a more intimate level than even I am in the real estate side, because you have access and you're discussing all of these different factors in life, right?
Yeah.
And so it is so important that you jive, you connect, you trust, you enjoy who you're going to be building your wealth with, like, hello, right? So it's super important to be going out and doing that. And then you'll see that differential. You'll see the unique factor, and you'll make a decision for yourself.
If this episode is bringing you value, can I please ask you for 30 seconds of your time to subscribe to the show from wherever you're tuning in from? Leave a review and share this episode. This is how we amplify the message, we grow the show, and we multiply the impact for women.
Okay, let me ask you guys this, because we are in a wild time, right? We're in a wild world where some days are certain more than others. And, we in recording this right now, the banks just reduced by 0.25 basis points, right? So we had like 25 basis points go down, which is fantastic. The US is doing their own thing as well right now, which is also crazy. When you think of what to be thinking about right now for the future, when you talk about wealth preservation, what is the conversation and what are some of those questions that people need to be asking right now for these different changes in the world? Like with anything and everything, like fiat currency continues to be diluted and go down, right, as inflation is going up. Talking about transitioning currency in general, period. Like there's so many things that are happening in the world right now. And yeah, so I would love to hear, like, when you guys what would you be advising around how do you preserve your wealth? Like, what do you need to be looking for right now?
So I would say now and always, now is a great, sort of example of how a situation can crystallize and cause a lot of problems for a lot of people all at once. Though now and always, we urge people to really think deeply and wisely about diversification. So how are you're going to take risks no matter what when you're doing stuff with your money. If you're going to invest, wherever you put it, you're taking some sort of risk. Even if you're just stuffing cash under your mattress, the risk you're taking there is that it's not growing and inflation is going to outpace you. So the way that we think about preservation and really keeping what you've earned and built safe is making sure that your eggs aren't all in one basket. So spreading it out throughout different asset classes that all act differently and can balance one another out. So some asset classes will rise in value when interest rates go up. Some will go lower in value when rates go up. So if you have only one type of asset, if something happens in the world, as many things have happened very recently to us, your asset's going to be really impacted and you're really going to feel that in your life. Whereas if you've built balance across all different areas that complement one another, one area can go down while another's going up.
Yeah.
Yes, and the buckets may surprise people as well. The way that we do, the short answer is yes. And we call this framework that we use for diversification the legacy plan, and it's really about creating an income that you can outlive, making sure what you've built is safe and secure, and that you're able to then leave a legacy for people who come after you. So the 5, we call them silos. We call buckets, baskets, silos, whatever. One of them, the first one is cash. And by cash, we can mean literal cash, but really it's about liquidity. It's what do you have access to? What can you use out of your assets? And that's, it's important to have that. Otherwise, if an emergency comes up, you can't respond to it. And if an opportunity comes up, you can't take advantage of it. So you want enough in that area to cover off your.
So would you say that even within cash, when you're talking about liquidity, ease of access to it, could that also be considered having an available line of credit?
Yes, it can. Very, very clever, Shay. Yes, it can. So we definitely consider access to credit that can serve the purpose, right? You can jump on an opportunity or respond quickly in the case of an emergency. And like we said before, having too much in like literal cash isn't necessarily your best option. It's not growing. If it's not growing, it's losing. Yeah, that's cash and liquidity. And then the second silo we think of as your registered assets. So your RSP and your TFSA, basically. And it's because of how they act and the different features that are attached to them. All sorts of investments can go into that category. But what we're pulling out here is that you're basically in a partnership with the government, with CRA. They give you tax benefits and that incentivize people to invest in these programs. So we recommend to use those strategically to help you achieve goals that you have in your life. And there's different strategies that people would put in place. Third silo is your non-registered assets. So a lot of what you mentioned earlier, Shay, could fall into here or could fall into silo 2 in terms of the like types of stocks that you're picking. We don't go granular on that. History is our guide. And I don't know if probably you may have seen this. Like I've seen this at at Scotiabank in my advisor's office up on the wall. It's called literally the big picture, and it's a chart that shows you what the different markets have done all the way since 1934 up until today. And just seeing that, you can see the trajectory of the different stock markets and general approach, like get in and hold long term, because there is the advance is permanent. You're seeing a steady upward trajectory over the last 100 years, and there are temporary declines. So with this, it's almost about your mindset of be a contrarian. When the market goes down, don't bail. That's how you lose money. Stay the course. Long-term investing. Silo 4, real estate. We know all about that. You know all about that. And then we have a fifth silo that allows people to build a tax-free source of income using leverage. I won't go into this. Will really blow people's minds if we try to talk about it in detail, but just know it exists. There's a fifth.
The legacy plan is part of the presentation because it really gives an eye-opening approach to that person's makeup and what their life looks like broken up in percentages. And we have our own percentages of what is valuable in a perfect scenario. And that's what we start to use to follow through on the next steps of executing that client's goals. But at least they have that and they can see their entire, because most people don't have all of their answers to what they have on the spot. Yeah, so that's where your call with your consultant initially, where all the documents come through, because we can only put together as much information for you to the information we've collected from you. So that's where transparency and what you were talking about, where it's a very raw conversation, because in order for us to get you into your best case scenario now, future, and long term, we need to know everything that's going on. And there's no judgment. We are so open and we are so unbiased that we're just here to help. We're here to get you moving on to the next phase of your life with less pain, no fear, and let's just work. Let's just get your money working for you.
And what a beautiful invitation. I hope if you're listening that you receive that, because culturally, and this is one of the most powerful, I think, realizations that I've had in the last couple of years when I've really stopped to think about this whole topic around women and wealth. No matter your race, no matter your age, no matter what country you were born in, no matter the religion you were brought up in, if you are a female, we are literally united by this hindrance of understanding money or being able to work, having the desire to work was so taboo years ago, right? And so never mind the desire to work, but then understanding money and how it works for you, what you can do with it. There's been so much shame for women that just have this actual desire to learn it. Never mind even going out and making it, but just to learn it. It starts there, And so it's such a beautiful invitation that you provide anybody, but I'm going to say specifically women, to say, like, come as you are. There's no expectation of where you should be, regardless of society, what they tell us, the pressures, or even you yourself feeling like maybe you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. Maybe you're going, sharing a similar story to even yours, Daniela, going through divorce. And I see so many women in my industry that are going through divorce between 50 to 60s. And they have had the man in their life has been the one who has handled everything. And they've never needed to know. They've never needed to understand. And now in this transition that they're in, I'm really embarrassed that I don't know what I should have known, or I didn't know that I even needed to know this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, regardless of where you grew up, we all as females have inherited down this generational, whether we like it or not, there's a money story there, and our viewpoint around money, it has been passed down to us, and inherently as a female, that permission to create wealth, to understand money and finances, to hold investments personally, not in the household, but personally.
Yeah.
We've not been given that permission. And it's really been only in the last 2 decades, really, that you're seeing not just women in the workforce, but women rising up and being investors, understanding money, playing in the stock market, owning real estate. Like, I think it was something like 1960. Don't quote me on this, guys. It was like 1960 or 1970. That was the first time that females were allowed to even have a credit card.
That was a Spanx story. And actually one of our clients, her mother, it's funny that you say that, her mother, in, I think, Sarah, was it 1976 or 74?
I think. Yeah. That's the number that sticks in my mind.
Yeah. It was the first female to go in and apply for a bit and get accepted for a line of credit or business loan. I think line of credit. Yeah. Line of credit without her husband. Right. So when you think of the timing on that, like it's not that long ago, right?
No, it's not. And that's where I'm like, I want to remind women to give yourself grace and permission that it doesn't matter where you are or where you think you should be, or the shame around that you got to actually release that in spaces like this. And that's such a beautiful and powerful thing.
And I want women to know that it's not your fault. It's truly not. It's our government's fault. And it will continue to stay like this unless we start to actually speak and start causing some, I'll keep it polite, some disturbances out there, right? And that's my goal. And my goal is to really knock the truth out of what's really going on, and showing more transparency and empowering business owners to actually take charge and be amped with that information. Like a little example, most people, you would know this because you're in the industry, but most people it's got nothing to do with level of education. That's the other thing, right? It doesn't matter how educated you are. We have some of the most educated clients, like top tier, and they come in and they're humbled, because I can't believe this. Like, I wish I met you 10 years ago. But most people, and this is just like one minor example, don't know that you can actually shop around for a mortgage. They don't know that there's mortgage brokers out there.
Right.
Right. Like, we have clients that come in and, we have so many experts with us through our in-house and our vetted partners. We have a mortgage broker that's within our clients because we refinance all the time, and getting them to do the work and shop for you, because most people walk into their bank and the bank will say, oh, okay, well, you need to do this and do that. Oh, your mortgage is renewing, so let's just get this done and signed, get your mortgage insurance. And that person, because it's such an overwhelming process, just kind of becomes, a subordinate of that environment. And, we want women to know that, listen, it's not your fault. This is what we've been governed to believe. And it takes people like us and you, Shay, for putting things like this out there and bringing these to the forefront for people to say, and it's, it's males, females, it's everyone to say, hey, wait a second, what is best for me? What do you have to offer me? And to, but that's what we do for you. Because who has the time to do that? When you're successful and you're operating your business, we want to get you out of that mindset of working in your business, on your business, handling all your cards yourself, because you can't, right? So.
And you also shouldn't, because that's not your area of expertise, right? Like that's the other thing. And I think about, it's very common for people to understand that you have a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a naturopath. But then when you come over to wealth and you come over to money, it's amazing how that there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
It's like most people don't take the time to find a tax planner, and even when we say insurance, I'll clarify too. Yes, having like things like life insurance is really great, but if you go through this process with DDM, you are going to learn, or if you hang out here longer, you will also learn that there are many different insurance policies that you can take out, that you can actually borrow against and leverage against and build wealth within your insurance plan. So we're not just talking about, oh yeah, I have life insurance that I pay $8 a month to TD Bank. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. When you're coming into wealth management or wealth preservation through a group like DDM, we're talking about insurance being utilized as a tool and a vehicle and a structure in ways that you've probably never even heard before, that you don't realize exist. And there are many tax-free solutions. Insurance is one of the most, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Daniela.
Sexy.
Well, okay, throw that word in, sexy. I love that. But it is one of the best vehicles that the wealthy transfer their wealth down to the next generation tax-free.
100%.
And if that's mind-blowing for you and you're like, what did she just say? This is why you need to connect with Daniela and her team. It's going to be all in the show notes. We make it really easy for you to connect with anybody that comes onto the Freedom CEO podcast. But click in the show notes and you can start this process. You can also do your own research. Be like, what was Shay talking about? Go online, start understanding. Very simple. How is insurance used to transfer generational wealth tax-free? That's the line. Start learning it. But it's things like this that, people don't know. And there's always room to evolve and level up. Like, I don't mind sharing. In a couple of weeks, I'm going through an assessment with your team myself, because I believe strongly in your mission and vision. And I also believe that you're like a unicorn in the industry, providing services, and you're providing a solution to a gap that I haven't ever seen in our industry when you're talking about wealth in general and all of these different silos, not to be confused with Sarah, with what you were saying earlier around asset silos, but tax, insurance, assets, like estate planning, all of these things. And so I'm going, okay, well, where's my blind spots? Because for sure I have them. And you guys are the experts to bring that thought back full circle. You go to a fitness person to level up your body, to curb your nutrition, because that's like what they do. And so it is so important that how we create freedom in our life through this beautiful vehicle of money is being managed. It's being given the proper attention by people who, this is what they do. They breathe it, day in, day out. And you guys are the experts in it.
It's what people are comfortable with. You use the analogy of health. People are comfortable with that conversation. It's an easy conversation. Do you want to relate it to financial? Okay, fine. You go to it. That a proper health regimen is not just exercise, right? It's food intake, it's hormones, it's the different type of exercise, and everybody's makeup is different. Everybody's different times in their life, from 20s, menopause, whatever. It's a holistic approach that is independent for that person. It's the same thing with financials. It's a little bit more evolved, but you need to have that same want and desire to know what's best for you. like the effort and attention you're putting into your health, because the two need to be combined. It's mind, body, soul. And I want to talk to you about something else. When you were talking about insurance, so you're right, that one area that you just spoke about, and I use the word sexy, it's inappropriate, but it is, because if you actually speak to somebody who's very well versed in how insurance works and also in the best interest of the client, you realize the benefits and why it is so exciting. But I want to clarify that those corporate policies, the reason why, first of all, not a lot of people know about them is because they're only offered by independents. Institutions, banks can't offer these products. It's been governed from, decades previous of what both insurance companies and banks are allowed to do. So that's one reason why not a lot of people are aware of it. Two, these very exciting no tax or minimal tax or generational wealth transfer no tax initiatives with certain insurance products are very, very, I'd say, complicated in how they're structured. So you really need to be with the right person, and it gets too detailed to talk about it today and too much. But it's for corporate business owners. So if you're incorporated and you have surplus cash coming into your corporation, and we work with all different numbers, and there's strategies with that and how to increase those corporate dollars. If you are in that world, incorporated and making money, you are in the position to create and preserve an extensive level of wealth without using majority of your own money, and building a future of income you can't outlive where you can pass it on.
Which is super sexy. You're totally cool to say that on here. And, here's just like another thought. And I know this is like, this kind of, I feel, opens up like a part 2 conversation, because we don't have time to go fully into this. But there are so many people right now who are small business owners or like have a sole proprietor structure right now that don't understand that by incorporating, they could be preserving wealth in the present, never mind in the future, and also saving themselves so much money that what I like to say is donating to the government every year. And then, to your point, being able to take that quote unquote donation money, and you could be putting it into a corporate policy by them being incorporated. So just even things like this is like learning, how are you set up right now? Are you a sole proprietor? Like, are you just who you are? Like, what does that structure look like? And is there a better way? And usually there is, So let me ask you this kind of in closing, because I would love to hear who would you say is your ideal DDM client? And if you want to share any great success stories or examples of your clientele, feel free to do that as well.
Yeah, so I'll kind of take a first stab at that, and just Sara is one of the consultants where most people would kind of go through Sara first, so she can kind of jump in here too at some point. Our ideal clients are, like I said, business owners and decision makers. So you can have all the information in the world, but if you're a procrastinator and you're sitting, then you're not going to benefit, because sitting, procrastinating time, that's lost opportunity. So decision makers, business owners, people are in really high income tax brackets, 100%. Because we can turn that on immediately. And then you want a story? I'll give you a story. You mentioned before about women in the 50 to 60 range, and this is men too. It's not just women. 50 to 60 range. It's next stage of life. They may have, worked all their lives. This one story, worked her entire life, created some success, had a business, sold the business, now 50, 52 range. And she's panicked. She's panicked because, she's referred into us by another client. And she's panicked because, she feels her one goal is to leave some wealth to her daughter after she's gone. And her panic is that, oh my God, I have who knows what, till life expectancy is 83. I'm only 50. This is all I have. I just sold my business and, it's not that much. Like, how's this going to outlive me and leave money for my daughter? And, and so panic and fear and 100%. Yeah. So when she came on board, we were like, okay, let's just pause for 1 minute. You're actually in a wonderful situation beyond what you even see. Because where people come in and see problems, we see solutions and opportunities. So yes, she just sold her business. Call it, she sold it for $3 million. Okay. And she's living in a home, no mortgage. And she has a little bit of investments in stocks, which wasn't a lot. So tears, oh my God, how am I gonna leave any money? How am I gonna actually live myself? So we said, okay, let's relax. So you can leverage your home for an investment. You still have your corporation. You can still make money in your corporation. And we are gonna make that $3 million work like a horse for you.
Yes.
Into your future. So she went from, and then so once we went through the entire process and then showed her what we were going to do and how we did it, and we break it down in phases because, we don't want to overwhelm you. So we walk you through and we do things from most important, which reduces the highest risk portion first, and then work our way through. So she went from the fear of, oh my God, this is crazy. How am I going to live? All that, to and this is 2 years ago. She's a multi-millionaire now, and will be able to leave $7 million to her daughter.
Amazing.
Right.
Wow.
So it's just looking at, and there would have been no other way for her to have this solution. There no way, because that requires 6 different experts to be at that table. Right. So, with the team lead and communicating with all the experts on the holistic approach, she's able to have that outcome. Now she's living La Vida Loca, right? So that's a prime example that happens with all of our clients, just in different. It's just.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Oh, it's so good having you guys on. I know, we could keep going and keep going. And this is obviously, it's such a passion of mine. As Daniela, you had mentioned at the beginning, we both share that. And it's why I wanted to have you guys come on. I wanted to ask you both one final question, because you're on the Freedom CEO podcast. When you think about your life and being the CEO of your life, so Daniela, for you, take off the hat for your business because you're already that. But when you think about being the CEO of your life, taking ownership, owning your decisions, all of that powerful stuff that a CEO is, how has that brought you freedom?
Oh, I can answer that simply taking myself completely out of it. Wealth to me has a very definite answer. And for me, from my experiences and my life, is choice. So for me, wealth is freedom of choice. I want the opportunity to be able to not only have the information and the right information, but it's the opportunity and the space to actually have the choice put in front of me.
I love that. So powerful. Sarah?
Yeah. And it's, I guess, to build on that a little bit, it's the choices that you make now that are going to give you that multiplicity of choices into the future. So you're not going to get there by doing nothing and by staying the same and by sort of living in that fear and allowing yourself to stay, I don't want to use the word ignorant. That sounds really harsh, but, allowing yourself to sort of stay unknowledgeable and not in control of your choices. Like, if you have the right information, you're able to make good decisions for yourself and it becomes much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So good. I love it. Well, I'm so grateful for you both. Thank you for joining me today. And like I had mentioned earlier, make sure you check out the show notes because you're going to be linked up both on the socials, but also get your assessment done. You can go and get connected with the DDM group and let the process start. And so I'm really excited for you on the other side of that. And again, Daniela, Sarah, thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Shay. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Shay.
Have a wonderful day.
If something in today's episode resonated with you or sparked a shift, tag me on IG or send me a DM. I genuinely love hearing what lands for you. And if it spoke to you, share it or leave a quick review. It helps more women find this show and step into their own wealthy era. Until next time, lead with purpose, live with intention, and stay wealthy.